Thank you, everyone, for subscribing to Infinitely Productions. If you have not done so, please click the bell and subscribe, and we hope you enjoy our content.
I signed some papers, and I had become a full-fledged, I call it cooperator witnesses, but everybody in the country calls it stool pigeon.
Sam Gravano was John Gotti's designated heir apparent, his best buddy in crime. He has, since his cooperation, given us over a dozen felony convictions against a dozen different people.
What I'm telling you, what I'm exposing to you and the press and everybody, this is my doom.
It is a pact with the devil. There's no doubt about that. But it is one that, on balance, is in society's best interest.
December 11th, 1990. For the fourth time in 5 years, reputed mob boss John Gotti was under arrest. Wearing his handcuffs as cavalierly as he wore his $1,000 suits, Gotti, known as the Dapper Don by the press, was led off to jail. Arrested with him were 3 colleagues in Gotti's alleged mafia organization, the Gambino crime family, including Salvatore Sammy the Bull Gravano, Gotti's right-hand man. The Gambinos were the largest and most powerful of New York's 5 crime families. They controlled the New York garment district, had a hold on the waterfront through the Longshoremen's Union, and took huge kickbacks from the garbage and trucking industries. Prosecutors said Gotti had seized control of the family in a palace coup. They now charged him with engineering the murder of Paul Big Paulie Castellano, the previous Gambino chief. Big Paulie had died in classic mafia fashion, gunned down on a sidewalk in 1985 as he climbed out of his Lincoln to dine at his favorite Manhattan restaurant. It was Gotti, prosecutors said, who had sent out his gunman to do the job after getting the other New York families to approve the killing. If the charges were true, Gotti's betrayal of his boss was vicious and cold, but part of mob tradition. Aging mafia overlords had often been slain by impatient, ambitious underlings. But now Gotti found that he himself had been betrayed in a matter not sanctioned by mafia practice. Sammy the Bull Gravano had decided to rat on his boss. Faced with the possibility of life in prison, Gravano chose instead to deliver his mentor and godfather to the feds in exchange for a lighter sentence. After the trial, Gravano would be entered in the government's witness protection program, given a new identity, and protected by federal marshals. For the prosecutors, it was a fair trade. No other figure associated with the mob drew attention like John Gotti. Despite his impeccable grooming, his fashion-plate wardrobe, and his Mercedes-Benz, he had for years filed his income tax returns as a plumbing salesman. He had served a total of 8 years in prison, 2 of them for a barroom killing in 1968. He still lived in this modest home in Queens. With Gotti, life imitated art. The press had at last found a mob leader who fit the image set by Hollywood and the huge success of the Godfather films. Reporters tripped over one another to capture him on videotape. As the saying goes, the camera loved Gotti. And Gotti loved the camera, especially when it recorded him walking out of a courtroom a free man. This he had done 3 times to the frustration of government lawyers.
As to the defendant, John Gotti, do you find the defendant guilty or not guilty of the first count of the indictment, charging him with the crime of conspiracy in the 4th degree?
We find him not guilty.
With each acquittal, Gotti got a little more famous and became a little more of a legend for winning his bouts with American justice.
Thank you.
Much of Gotti's success in the federal courts could be credited to his unflagging champion, the colorful defense attorney, Bruce Cutler.
It's not right what you're doing, singling people out and going after them, harassing them, using witnesses who lie, who say anything for money and a new identity. And I think people have just said it, enough.
Cutler helped Gotti earn a new nickname, the Teflon Don, because no charge could be made to stick. Once an unknown, Gotti became one of New York's best-known citizens. Camera crews even attended the July 4th picnics he threw for his whole Brooklyn neighborhood. Police had long since stopped bothering to enforce the New York law against private fireworks. But if any person could make the new charges stick to Gotti, it was Gravano. As Gotti's confidant and right-hand man, Gravano was privy to Gotti's secrets. And he was icing on the cake for the U.S. attorneys, who had spent the years since their last failure gathering hundreds of hours of audio recordings of Gotti's meetings and private conversations. Gravano was part of many of those discussions, including one where Gotti offered him the promotion of his choice.
Do you want me to make you official underboss, acting boss? How do you feel? What makes you feel better?
These conversations made Gravano the ideal stool pigeon. The very evidence against Gotti would shore up the credibility of the principal witness. As the trial approached, Gotti was deprived of another key ally, longtime defender Bruce Cutler. At a pretrial hearing, prosecutors played tapes in which Gotti described Cutler handling illegal deals.
You know and I know that they know that you're taking the money to the table. Every time you take a client out, all of a sudden you're breaking the law.
The U.S. attorneys insisted the tapes compromised Cutler's credibility in the courtroom. The judge agreed and barred Cutler from representing his most famous client. Little by little, the surveillance evidence against Gotti was whittling away his usual defenses. Cutler was furious.
I am just personally offended and angry, and I still cannot fathom that I will not be addressing this jury in this case.
In place of Cutler, Gotti hired renowned defense attorney Albert Krieger. And as he waited for trial, Gotti was said to be running the Gambino family from his jail cell. But this time, the deck seemed to be stacked against the man America had come to know as the Teflon Don. Even his 4th of July picnic went afoul when the annual fireworks display exploded all at once. It was as if Gotti's whole world was blowing up in his face.
Sammy the Bull Gravano was expected not only to tattle on his boss, but to act as a kind of mafia translator. Mobsters know the government will listen in on them, so they talk in a loose code, issuing orders for murder or massive drug shipments in language that could seem meaningless to a jury. The mob rat interprets the mafia jargon and maps out the bloody chain of command. This Gravano did, but like all mafia informers, Sammy the Bull was also a liability for the prosecutors. On the stand, he would implicate Gotti in 10 murders and admit to 19 himself. So the trick for the prosecution would be to prove that John Gotti was a killer, on the word of a professional hitman.
Thank you for watching this video. Please subscribe to our channel and check out more content. Feel free to give us your feedback and suggestions on who we should do next in the comments. This is Infinitely Productions. We love ya.